everyone. Welcome to Humpday Happy Hour, hosted by Dennis in the Know. This is the webcast where dentistry meets real talk, real news, and just the right amount of sarcasm. We're pulling back the curtain on the industry. We're talking to the experts, the educators, the innovators. We're talking to the everyday clinicians who are out there doing the work. There's no fluff, there's no filter, and there's definitely no sales pitches disguised as education. If it's happening in dentistry, from clinical insights to regulatory curveballs, or maybe it's the latest scandal at the ADA, we're probably already talking about it. And yes, we are bringing the goods. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned doc or anyone in the dental industry for that matter. Maybe you're a curious consumer, or maybe you're just here for the banter. We welcome you all to the show because around here, we're not just in the loop, we are in the know. Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Jeff Horowitz, and I am with one of my best friends in the world, Dr. Jennifer Bell. Dr. Chad Duplantis decided that he was too good for us tonight. He's on vacation with his family, enjoying those last few moments of summer before everybody has to go back and to work and school and all of that fun stuff. But we all three of us created this little platform to make the world a lot smaller and even more fun. Today we have a terrific guest. We have Kristen Smith, who is the Vice President of Customer Success at our great educational partner, Curve. We're going to be talking about how AI is impacting our practice lives. We already know what AI has done for our personal lives. We're seeing some of what it's done for our practice lives, but I think we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. So, anyway, we are very thankful to Curve for being our educational partner. Thankful that Kristen is here to spend some time with us. But right now, here she is. She hails from North Carolina. She's got blonde hair. She can throw the three-pointer, and I don't know what else to say.
Argue with a wall.
She can argue with a wall. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jennifer Bell. How you doing?
We need like a drum roll. Ben, work on that. I know there's a button for that.
I don't have those buttons. Damn it, nobody gave me buttons. Oh, nice.
Yes, I'm here. Hey, remember when we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago? Maybe it was last week. I can't remember. The block. I had all this full day of hitting all the blocks. You know, and I was living on a high, got everybody numb, one go, done. Even Chad was like, those days are like magical, where one shot gets everybody. And then a ginger walks in on a Friday. And I'm like, I'm never going to get you numb. And I knew it. And I went ahead and tried, gave it my, valiant effort. And then she was not numb. And I said, and she was very fair. And I said, by any chance, do you hail from a line of redheads? And she goes, oh, yes, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, and my brother. And I was like, cool. You don't get numb very easily. So we're going to try again. We did eventually get there, but it broke my streak and I was pretty bummed about it.
You know, your conversation actually rented a lot of space in my head over the next few clinical days that I have. Because really, I mean, I'm gonna pat myself on the shoulder. I feel like, it is really rare that when I need a block that I don't get it. But the person that broke that little feeling of being proud of myself happened to be my mother, who is the ginger of all gingers.
Yes.
And yeah, she needed some work done, and screw it, I'm blowing HIPAA, but it's my mom.
Yeah.
Tough, you know what, mom.
Yeah.
Go in there.
Go after him. I dare you.
And she also said it was okay to always talk about her. So
okay, good.
So yeah, try to do something with that. But yeah, mom came in, had to do a pretty big procedure. She needed a block, and guess who I didn't get?
No.
Of course it was my mother.
Mm-hmm. And I don't care how old you are, there's still like this little bit of pride, right? You're like, Mom, look at me. I grew up to be a doctor. Aren't you so proud of me? And
Yeah.
then you go and you botch it. And she's like,
Yeah.
not really.
She's like, I'm feeling that. I'm like, oh,
Ugh.
damn it.
Is that when you start going, let's see if we can just get a vein instead?
Exactly. We're just mainlining.
Exactly. You're going to sleep now, Mom.
Yeah. Good night.
Anyway,
So
I thought it was funny. I was like, of course, I should post 10 out of 10 on IAN until a ginger walks in.
yeah.
It's just like, then you're done.
Yeah, and
It's
but there's
okay.
definitely truth to that, and the science is at least supporting us on that
Yeah,
front now. So
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
glad to hear it. So why don't we do something different? Let's because
We're
I always
driving the
like
boat this week, so we can do anything we want.
I know, I know, Chad.
Unsupervised.
Yeah, he's probably not even listening.
Probably not.
Probably not. He doesn't really care about us.
No,
I think he does.
a
And he
little.
probably and knowing him, he will tune in probably at some point.
Yeah,
So
or send us an annoying
yeah, send
text.
us a text sometime during. But yeah, let's why don't you go ahead and do the news?
Ooh,
Because
okay. That's a good
I
idea.
I always like to chat about the news anyway after you're done. So
I know. You've been oppressed for too long. We're going to bring you back into the spotlight so we can banter on news cuz there's some good stuff this week.
well, let's do it then.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready? All right, well, let's do a follow up first from last week's news because lots of great buzz is happening on this Pennsylvania story. We talked about how Pennsylvania just passed a really important bill that was focused on making insurance carriers in the state of Pennsylvania a lot more accountable for what they promise and also making the information a lot more accessible. I had a comment posted from a young female who stated, "Oh my gosh, that's my bill." And this was like such a geeky moment and I was like, "That's so awesome. I've got to get to know this person, find out her story." So Abby Zilber, maybe you're out there listening to us. I reached out and I was like, okay, tell me a little bit about how this is your bill because she's very young and I was super curious how she got involved in the process. All right, so she sent me an email. This is what we got. Her mom is a dentist in Pennsylvania. She's been around dental offices probably her whole life, honestly, as most kids of dentists can attest to. And she's seen how it affects the small businesses and the struggles that she went to. Well, fast forward, she was a part of writing the bill. She was doing an internship with Representative Christine Howard in Pennsylvania, had an opportunity to participate in the writing of the legislation. She is a full time public policy student at the University of Delaware, but she's still staying involved. And what I loved about this follow up to our Pennsylvania story is it's going to take all of us, not just dentists, but also people who love dentists. Maybe they're married to them, maybe their parents are dentists, or maybe you just really appreciate and understand the impact we have on oral health and what we're doing for our communities. It's going to take all of us to rally together to write good public policy and good legislation to continue to protect the profession and the patients as best we can. So I love that Abby is coming out as a daughter of a dentist in PA and representing her mother incredibly well. So just a quick follow up story there. All right, a lot of like famous people in the news as related to dentistry, and this definitely comes in waves. Remember, we had Kanye's titanium grill. Well, we've got a couple other famous people now surfacing into the news that I thought was worth a mention. First was William Shatner, and I just kind of caught a glimpse of his story and dug a little bit deeper, but he had been diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. And it actually started as a spot, maybe right or left, not sure, behind his ear, kind of presenting more like a swollen lymph node. His first encounter with a physician, they thought it might be a swollen salivary gland. So he did different massaging techniques to try to break that up with the parotid gland there. Unsuccessful, obviously, because at the end of the day, it wasn't that. But the biopsy revealed the melanoma. Then, fast forward, yet another famous story comes out. Now, personally, not a story necessarily I was following until it related to oral cancer. But Gina Kino of The Real Housewives of Orange County also was recently diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. And she was being seen by her dentist. They thought maybe it was an irritation or frictional lesion of the tongue. Went for a while trying to adjust teeth and do a few things. Eventually, a biopsy revealed that it was squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. Excuse me, Gina Keogh. Now, I don't bring this up because I want to bring penalty or bastardize the early attempts at diagnosis. What most physicians and clinicians are trying to do is look for the low-lying fruit. What is the most common reason why this thing may present today? And then with appropriate follow-up, if no resolution doing normal activity doesn't make it better, then biopsy is always indicated. Just a friendly reminder, clinicians, if you see something that looks abnormal and there's no other logical explanation for why it may be there, a biopsy is usually indicated. Any changes, a biopsy is indicated. And if it's not resolving within a short period of time or doing the thing that you believe could be related to the issue, it is best to go ahead and biopsy so that you can check off any ill pathology first and then go back to maybe a more likely cause for disease. I wish both of these families well. I hope a good, speedy recovery. I do think they might have a long journey ahead of them as both of these cancers are pretty difficult. Now, I think this parlays quite nicely into our next story coming out of the ADA. And I'm going to be honest with you, there may be a soapbox coming for this one. The ADA wants, and a council within the ADA is now focusing in on evidence based antibiotic prescribing. Now, this is based on the fact that from 2012 to 2022, most physicians have decreased the number of antibiotics they're writing, while dentists have maintained a pretty steady percentage at about 10% of all outpatient antibiotic prescriptions being written are coming from dental offices. So it does seem to be shifting a focus on dentists. Now, I think we all know as practicing clinicians, there's a myriad of reasons why we're writing antibiotics. I write antibiotics or have to defer antibiotics for orthopedic things that I don't think need to be prophylactically covered anymore. But yet here we are still having to manage that. We do have pre-medications we have to write for different clinical conditions, heart-related issues, et cetera. And those still do remain. But in the world of CYA, the antibiotic remains supreme. Now, dentists have definitely stepped back on their opioid prescription, which used to be our other alternative opportunity to help manage patients while we were working through a diagnostic process to figure out the origin of the pain. Because it is not always that easy. It is not always clear where the problem is coming from. And when a thing responds to antibiotics, it's often a very interesting piece of information and sometimes can participate in the diagnostic process because we know that that lends itself more towards a bacterial origin of pain. So I want the ADA, this is definitely my own opinion. I want the ADA to be very careful about the messaging that they are about to bring forward if they're going to encourage dentists to reduce their antibiotic prescriptions. And I get it. I'm very restricted in when I write prescriptions and when I think it meets best practices. But it is still a very important part of our toolkit and our armamentarium, even in indications where we are unsure where the pain and the origin story is, because you must be able to ensure to me as a clinician and to Jeff as a key expert witness and clinician that in the event that I don't write the prescription and someone ends up in the ER with a fatal or very life-threatening infection associated with odontogenic origin, that I'm then not going to get sued for following the ADA guidelines, because that's what we're dealing with. That is the, pain medication is one thing. It's an annoyance that we can't give patients pain medications to manage discomfort when it could be indicated because of all the uncertainty around opioid prescriptions. Fine, I get it. No one's probably going to die from pain, but they can die from infection. So let's make sure we're very judicious in this process and that we don't make it impossible for doctors to be able to do their very best in managing patient expectation and helping them get through the diagnostic process. All right, two more stories because I know Jeff is chomping at the bit. Okay, I have talked about Delta Dental and I've talked about Aetna Well, United Healthcare, it's your turn, 'cause I don't wanna leave anybody out in this conversation. I'm proud of the ADA for at least stepping forward to say that it's time to look at United Healthcare and how they are gathering information about their providers. Most of us as providers have to update our information in the CQH provider portal. All of that information then gets distributed out to the different insurance companies, and they use that. It covers our DEA license, our malpractice information, our MPI, et cetera. All that information is fed on a regular basis through CAQH and distributed out, except United Healthcare. They just want an extra layer of difficulty, and they want to give the providers one more application that they need to fill out in order to be compliant with all of this necessary information. It's ridiculous. So, ADA, I hope you're very successful. Standardization for providers in insurance is vitally important for the cost of doing business. And the fact that we have to employ so many people to manage insurance on a daily basis in our office is unsustainable. So, even though this seems very small, it is one more administrative task that a doctor is probably either doing themselves when they should be home, doing something much more enjoyable, or paying someone to do on their behalf. Another cost that is keeping us from being more competitive in the landscape and reducing the cost of dental care. So, United Healthcare, you're on notice. And the last victory lap story of the night, Massachusetts, with their big dental loss ratio bill that was passed just a few years ago in 2022. It was a big milestone event for dental loss ratio and kind of the momentum that we've seen since the passing of that. Well, $8.4 million is now being allocated to be sent back to the consumers because those insurance companies failed to meet the state's dental loss ratio standard. This will be the first rebates ever required by the law to be distributed back to the providers and maybe mostly the premium holders or insured. Maybe providers will see something to be determined. People in Massachusetts, let me know if you get some checks. Uh, but but we're happy to see the activity. We're happy to see that when you actually pass a law and there is consequence, that those consequences are being distributed out. And with that, that's the news.
Wow,
What?
jam packed.
I didn't even talk
Did you
about Kelly
even work
Ripa's.
this week?
No, I didn't even talk about Kelly Ripa's gum grafts. I forgot about that.
Oh my God. Well, we'll save that for next
Okay,
week.
we'll talk about that next week.
So lots to digest there.
Okay.
So I did want for anyone out there who's not heard Jennifer talk about the legislature related to dental loss ratio, what that's referring to is a mandate that insurance companies allocate a certain percentage of all of the benefits that come in towards benefits that must go out. So I don't know
Right.
what those percentages are, but this is really a pretty cool thing. It's great legislation. I did not know that any of the monies had actually been reimbursed.
This is the first time.
Yeah, that's really pretty cool. But I love that the insurance companies are having their feet held to the fire now to say, hey, you're breaking in this much. I think you're okay to allocate a certain percentage of this as guaranteed benefit to the people who've been paying
Yeah.
you all of these years. So
That's right.
love
That's
that.
big. That's big.
So as bad as as much talking about United Healthcare now, as bad as we have it on the dental side, it is just worse on the medical side, and getting going into a direction that it's becoming unsustainable. I just learned of something new today.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh no, yesterday we had our office meeting, and come to find out that we all know that when your case is reviewed with a medical insurance company, when it undergoes clinical review, that you may not necessarily get somebody with all the expertise that you might have in a given
correct.
area. So on the sleep and TMJ side, what I learned with one particular company, um, I've had a fight with an ophthalmologist over sleep and TMJ care several times. And what I've learned, I always knew you could request a specialist, but for everyone out there, if you're filing any medical insurance, if you put on your form that you want a specialty match request, that means that they have to find somebody who at least has some knowledge or some background in that specialty area that you're working in.
That
And I
seems so basic.
it seems so basic,
I
but
mean, jeez.
literally somebody, the plumber was overseeing all my electrical work
Mhm.
is what happened.
Exactly, and
You
saying
know, I
you
mean,
shouldn't be doing it.
yeah. It's just it's crazy that I have to ask that someone who actually understands, about orthopedics,
Right.
um, and orthodontics and sleep apnea or any of those conditions. I mean, I know we went to medical school, but you looked at eyes your whole life. I mean, that would like be me reviewing cases on cancer.
Yeah.
It
Liver
just
treatments.
it
No
makes no
idea.
sense. So
Well, it's
anyway,
very enlightening, Jeff. Thanks for sharing
yes,
that.
it's called a specialty match request. So if you're sending any medical claims and you don't want to have to go through the process of arguing with somebody that doesn't know anything. I had one case just last week where the insurance company's policy specifically said that the AHI, apnea hypopnea index, or RDI had to be greater than 5, and it said either or, as long as there were comorbidities, it was a payable or a reason for the claim to be valid. And so Mr. Ophthalmologist denied it, because one of my claims, because the AHI was not 5, but the RDI was 9, and there were a lot of comorbidities. And we actually had to explain the policy and actually explain what the RDI was to the person who was reviewing the medical claim.
Right.
Now, I get it that, you can't have all specialists employed by the insurance companies, but this is unfair that medical and dental offices, as you said, are having to employ so many people just to have these arguments that
Yeah.
should have been understood by anyone reviewing the claim. Like, it shouldn't have even gone to the reviewer at that point, but it's just something we deal with.
Ain't it grand?
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
can we have some fun with Kristen instead? Because
Let's
this is
do it.
depressing now.
It is depressing,
Yeah.
and that was a little soapbox moment for me. And
No, look, what do you okay, really quick, this antibiotic thing, when I read it, I was like, we better be very, very careful.
very careful. The expert witness thing. That is the first question.
I wanted
Oh,
to know.
yeah. That is the first thing always asked. Did you put her on an antibiotic? Did you put her on even with no indication to do that?
Right.
They're using, a lot of times they'll use a dentist's, um, whatever their reason for not putting a patient on an antibiotic, and almost try to play it as neglect.
Right, that's
And
what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I we're gonna watch this very closely because,
I agree. The wording is going to have to be. I mean, that's going to have to be wordsmith
yeah,
pretty intensely.
agreed.
So please introduce Kristen, because, like, literally every time I say her name, I want to say Kristen Bell.
Really?
I do. I don't
Just
know why.
you want a mashup, like, between the 2 of us?
Well, no, I mean, she doesn't look like Kristen Bell or anything. It's just Chris. What As soon as I saw Kristen when I was doing the beginning of the show, like literally Kristen Bell is what popped in my head. I'm like, no, no, don't say that.
Right.
Don't. I
Well,
have Kristen Bell on the brain. I don't know
I would
why.
be happy to introduce her. First off, all right, Ben, bring her on up because we gotta see her. All right. Here's one of the things that really impressed me about her bio right out the gate. 17 years with Curve. Now, don't take that as a negative because in the world that we're operating in right now with technology, it is actually very rare to find people that have been with a company platform and kind of watched it evolve into the thing that it is today, which I think is super important for the culture of the company, that you've stayed and that you're enjoying it, but also speaks a lot to the innovation and the evolution of the company as a whole. So we're definitely going to talk about that because we've interviewed a lot of people here and lots of technology in dental. You have to have one of the most longstanding employment relationships with your employer. So I think that definitely needs to be talked about. And then as a VP of customer success at Curve, like what does that look like for your customers? How do they experience and feel that culture of care? And how do they make sure they're onboarding and adopting? Because we also talked about pre-show how there's a lot of competitors in the space of technology, and a lot of companies are trying to get the same bandwidth from dentists who want to become different software providers for these different offices. And my experience has been utilization can be quite poor. You onboard all of these different technologies, and then the features are constantly being updated and changed, and then utilization gaps get bigger and bigger. So I'm really curious about that. I was in a board meeting one time within a technology company, on a larger technology company, and they were kind of blown away with the fact that I probably on a daily basis interact with somewhere between 20 and 25 different dashboards. And they were like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, this is the number of different software products that I have to interface with on a daily basis, and tech support calls and all this stuff." So I would love to peel back the onion on that a little bit for utilization and how, but you guys are doing some cool stuff in AI, and I know that's a buzzword, but not everybody's doing it the same. And I think Curve has a really interesting story on that as well. So Kristen, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Fresh from her garden.
Smith, everybody. Kristen Smith, not
Kristen
Bell.
Yeah, I think you're just combining Jennifer Bell, Kristen Smith. Now we're just one
I think
thing.
it's a good mashup.
And honestly, she's funny and cute, and like, I would be fine with it personally.
Yeah. It's not a bad name to have.
No. Welcome to the show.
How about that Curve has a VP of customer success?
Exactly.
How many companies actually dedicate somebody in the lineup and somebody with that much experience to making sure that the customer is getting the most out of the product?
Yep.
So I want to hear all about it too.
All right. Well, I think that, mentioning that you have a VP of customer success, there's a huge focus on being sure that customers that we have today stick with Curve because we want them to continue to use our software, and they need to have that good customer service experience. So we're constantly finding ways to ensure that they are getting the service that they need and getting it quick. As both of you know, you're working dentists and you have a full-time job during the day. Gosh, you need nothing more than to be able to get an answer to your question quickly and be able to then move on, right? So that's what we really try to focus on from a customer service standpoint. And AI is a huge part of that. Being able to utilize AI to make you more efficient in your day-to-day functions, not only just with tools that you can use, but also just being able to answer your own questions as well too by utilizing a tool that can help you find the answers quickly. So our focus has been in the last year is to really be able to take our knowledge. And as you can imagine, when you go out and you do searches on Google, there's a big knowledge base that's out there that it's pulling answers from. Well, where Curve is concerned, we're pulling from a knowledge base that's just literally about our program and everything that you can find about how to do things. We're talking about tens of thousands of different types of articles, videos, FAQs, little tidbits about this is how you do something. We're putting all of that together to be able to then very quickly answer questions. So if a customer wants to go into our knowledge area and do a quick search, it's pulling AI to find the answer to the question. And then, of course, a whole bunch of articles that can supplement how to answer that question. Take it even a little bit further, you give a call to a company, and there's nothing worse in this world than to sit there and wait on hold for a long period of time. You both know that when you are seeing patients, you might have 5 minutes of time that's available to do something really quickly, find an answer to something, get something taken care of. So time is of the essence to get that answer as quickly as possible. And that's what we've done as well too, is we've made it so that even when you make a phone call into Curve, we have assistants that can actually start to help triage what it is that you're trying to answer, so that by the time you get to a human, you have half the battle done to be able to tell what this is what my problem is. Now help me figure out the answer.
Now peel back the onion just a little bit for me. A
Yeah.
little bit of your journey in Curve, where you started in the company, what brought
Yeah.
you in. You have dental background before that, and then sort of what you've watched with the because the company has changed a lot over your
Yes.
tenure, I think,
Yeah.
and so curious to see your perspective on that.
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. So I've been in the dental industry almost 30 years. So prior to this position that I'm at right now, I worked for another dental software company doing the exact same thing. It was server-based system. I got a phone call from the CEO at the time saying, "Hey, I've got this product that is web-based." And web-based was the first thing that hit me like, "Oh gosh, web-based, that's a game changer." So that makes a big difference in how you can support customers. And I'm all about like, let's give the best customer service experience that we can. That was what hit me, is that I can give a different experience than I've been able to give in the past 10 years that I worked prior to in another dental software company. So that was really what excited me and made it so that I was like, I'm coming to Curve. And because we're web based, there's constant innovation that's taking place, and it's making it so that I can be a part of that and help advance things to make a better experience for the patient, for the customers, and as well as their patients that come to see them, being able to make that so that experience is a cohesive one. And let's face it, when you're looking at what the technology world is today, everybody wants something that's easier to use, whether it's the
Mhm.
patient going online and doing self-scheduling or whatnot. That's what Curve can offer, and that's made it available to all of our customers as well too. So that's kind of me in a nutshell and where I've been. So my experience was that I did start to work in a dental office when I first graduated from college. I didn't really know for sure what I wanted to do. I just wanted to experience some things by not being in school anymore.
Yeah,
So
right?
that's what I did. I went to I went and worked for our family friend. He was a dentist, and he was using a dental software at the time that didn't even have a manual on how to do anything inside of the software. So I took it upon myself to write him a manual to say, this is how you're going to post a payment. This is how you're going to create a claim, those type of things. Um, and really realized that that's where my passion is to really help understand how to use tools that are in front of you. So I then took the opportunity to go work for this dental software company that's also here in Utah. And that's where I started off with is I started supporting so I could understand how customers were asking questions. And then I moved to the training department to then become a big part of creating content and help guides to be able to tell someone how to use the software. And then here
Kristen,
I
what
am
are
now. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. What are some of the bigger innovations that you've seen come along with regard to AI? Some of the things that have really impacted your customers' success, and what sets Curve apart? What are some of those innovations that have come along that are really making your dentists, your clients, really enjoy the software?
Yeah, I love that question. So first and foremost, let's just think about you guys were talking about this earlier today, the insurance industry. Think about how much time your staff is taking on a daily basis to check insurance benefits. It's a lot of time every day that's being spent to make sure that the benefits that they told us 6 months ago is the same benefits that they have today. And then you start to get into the Medicaid patients. It could be that they were here yesterday and now it's the first of the month and it's totally different benefits that they have. They may not even have benefits anymore. So one of the things that we have done is we've partnered to be able to have advanced eligibility. And what advanced eligibility allows you to do is to connect with insurance companies that can then pull information, and it's 80 pages worth of information that is everything to do with benefits. It'll tell you you have this benefit that works in this situation, you have this frequency, you have percentages for every single ADA code that's possible. And what it then does is it takes that information and it compiles it and says, hey, this is what is available for benefits and what do you want to do with that? Then you can sync that inside of Curve. So that then what happens is that you no longer have to have Sally, your front desk, calling the insurance company to gather that information. They have their piece of paper, right? They're writing stuff down rapidly saying, oh gosh, this is the benefits. And I've got my 10 questions I've got to ask because I've got the insurance company on the phone and they're not going to be on the phone very long with me before I've got it. They're going to want to drop off. So I've got to make sure that every single patient I need to have benefits collected on, I've got that list here, right? And so then we're gathering that information and then we're going into our dental software and we're updating that manually to say, Crowns is at 50%, in this plan, Crowns is at 60%, whatever the situation is. So what's happening with this advanced eligibilities is taking all of that and saying, tell me when you want me to go and pull benefits from all of the insurance companies. Do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Fantastic. By the time you get in the morning, then you have the ability to be able to say, let me see what the benefits are saying. I want to go ahead and sync that into Curve. You sync it in, and now the benefits are updated. So that then your team no longer is spending the time trying to gather that information. AI is doing that for you. That's the first thing. So insurance and thinking about the time savings that you get there with that advanced eligibility. Next step is looking at note taking. So you have a lot of time throughout the day, right? Every single patient that comes in, you have the responsibility, and so does your assistant, your hygienist, to go in and document what happened during that visit. We have certain things we want to capture because if we capture things correctly, then we'll make sure that we have good claims that go out the door and we'll be able to have those paid. So from a note standpoint, there's the AI ambient listening that will go in and listen to you as you are seeing a patient and taking your notes. Now, during a visit, you have a lot of times where there might be some empty space. You might be talking about, what vacation they're getting ready to go on and those type of things. And that's not part of your clinical note that you maybe want to save, but it's just part of your visit that you're having with the patient. What ambient listening does is it goes in and it does a transcript for you that says, okay, these are the important parts that I need to gather because this is all clinical related. And then it creates your note for you. So there's no longer those note taking that you have to do late at night or at the end of the day, or you go home and you pull up your computer and you do some of your note taking from home. This ambient listening voice AI can take care of that all for you and get it done while your visit's finishing up. So that's a huge advantage and saves a ton of time for providers and staff members because, again, your patient care, you're trying to take care of your patient as quickly as possible, but those notes are so critical to that for so many different reasons, but so critical to that visit. Now what you're doing is you're letting the listening take care of it for you and record it. Now, Jennifer said to me earlier today, she said, I use AI for some of the things that I do. There's always that element of it can do that note taking for you, but you should always review. Like that's just something that we recommend. You review that last little bit, add in any tiny little bits of information that you're like, oh, I need to make sure that this is in there. And then your note is saved and you're done. Not only is the ambient listening for voice, but you also have the voice charting that's available that can go in and do your clinical charting as well as your historical charting and then perio charting as well. So being able to have that record for you and put all of your information in, saving time, hands-free environment as well too, where you're not taking gloved hands on keyboards or whatever you need to do. You'll be able to do all of that via just talking to the ambient listening.
I want to dive into this really quick
Yeah.
with you too, because I don't know why I've never thought of this until you said it just the way that you did. And Jeff, as an expert witness, you can really lean in on this. Notes, like if I say, let me make a note, it is truly just a general summary. Like it's not meant to save me in court. It's not meant to get me paid. It's just a note, a reflection to say, this is how I interpreted the experience or whatever. That isn't what notes are anymore. Like notes have evolved. Like if you go back and look, Jeff, I know you've seen it because I know how old you are. If we go back every week, I will find a way to sneak it in. If we
You
go
always
back to
do.
paper notes, I've seen the charts where you pull up like old notes from old clinicians and it was like cemented crown number 30. And
They
that's
were on cards like this big.
yeah,
Like a whole chart was a card this big. You know, the
correct.
front was the tooth chart, the back were just lines, and you were lucky if there were 4 words
Right.
written
And
for
maybe
a
it might have
clinical.
the build amount.
Yeah.
$60. Cemented crown number 30, $60. And that would be it. I mean, that is actually generally a note. It's a reflection on what occurred at that moment. But what you said is vitally important. It is not what we have to do today. Really, it's like a thesis. I think we should be writing theses for every visit. Notes is an old word because notes don't work anymore. And I was just thinking, you know, how much better it is if AI were listening to me. Because if Jeff were my expert witness and the AI was actually reflecting the types of conversations that I had with my patients versus my staff members' interpretation as they're trying to type and keep up,
Right.
or even my own reflection at the end of the day when I'm tired and I'm like, what's the bare minimum I need to have in here so that I can not get sued or whatever? Jeff, as my new expert witness in that case, would say, this girl knows what she's doing. Like she's locked in, she's doing the right thing by the patient, she's communicating, she gave patient options, all those things. Instead of it just being an omission of failure to just type it in or, you know, say it in such a way. And then your other point is incredibly valid. Now it's also our only ability to get paid. I mean, if doctors are not aware, particularly associate doctors who may not be participating in the AR process, almost now everything we do gets a clinical note attached to the claim, which is vastly different even from 10 years ago, where clinical notes were only really deployed for narratives. But now every crown gets a clinical note, every SRP gets a clinical note, every complex procedure gets a clinical note. So your notes are now the thing that are allowing you to get paid or not. So I love where AI is going in this space. One, convenience. Our team wants this product. They want this process. They don't want to sit there and type and be a secretary for, they don't even get the benefit of shorthand. They literally have to type everything. But two, liability, payment, like everything is now locked up in how we document, which is super important. So I love that. And I hopefully you feel the same way about where this is evolving and how we're using the technology.
Absolutely. I love what you say about that it is now becoming a critical part of being able to get your claims paid and passed through. And you think about that as well too. If you don't have your notes, your clean claim percentage goes down a lot, right? You get the rejection of the claims,
Absolutely.
and then you have to recreate that claim and resend it,
Yep.
which is, again, it's time on your staff that has to go back and do all of that. If you have that note taking that's taking place, and you as a clinician, you kind of know what you need to talk about
Of
and
course.
say, and because it's just naturally as you're talking about it in your operatory, it's capturing all that, and now you don't have to worry about remembering and thinking about what did I do 2 hours ago for this patient. It's just it's all captured.
Yeah.
Will
I
it
love
filter out the dirty jokes?
Your
Yeah,
HR
it would.
department should.
No, I actually keep it clean in the operatory. Unless it's
Mostly.
someone I know real well.
Mostly.
Yeah, great question though, because it does filter out certain aspects of the conversation because it really is focusing in on what's the clinical aspect that it needs to capture. Now,
Yeah.
Curve does have note templates as well too. So note templates
Sure.
where you can go in and you can create drop downs. And what it'll do is it'll fill in all of those areas as well too, because it recognizes that you're saying, okay, this is the shade that we did on this crown. Well, you have an area on your note that talks about shade. It'll fill that information in through what you say as you're talking about the appointment and doing your note taking.
Yeah, auto notes were a great thing. But I don't know about you, Jeff, and you have way more detailed conversations. Like probably every patient that walks in your office is getting this very long exam, very long evaluation, all this stuff. Like it's not the DO on number 2 that takes very long to do the note. It's the consults, it's the post-ops, it's the complex treatment planning. It's all the other stuff that my staff rolls their eyes about. Rightfully so, honestly, because they're super long and there is no auto template for the way these conversations sort of evolve and the person in the chair and how they're asking questions and probing and doing all that stuff. So AI is such a next critical piece of evolving. Honestly, the minute I told my staff that we could start to look at AI for clinical notes, I saw tears, legit tears. They're so happy. So
Well, the other
happy.
piece of that too, JB, and something you said was so on the mark, which is every malpractice case boils down to one thing. Was what happened an act of negligence, or was it just a bad outcome?
Right.
And so much of every case I've ever been on has come down to what was the intent of the dentist? Was this someone that was really trying their best? And to your point, those kinds of conversations would absolutely make it easier to see the intent or to see an absence of malfeasance or negligence on the part of the dentist. It really does create clarity there. So I think that point that you made is just so on point. But the other piece that Kristen mentioned too that we really didn't focus on. I mean, it's obvious, but we didn't say it out loud. And I think it needs to be said is what is the thing that costs us more than anything in our practice? And it is the time clock. It's our employees that we're having to pay to carry out these
Yep.
tasks when really what we need them to be are we need them to be the front line for our patients in their care and making sure that the experience is good. We don't want to be paying them for a lot of time to do these tasks that are better handled, with tools like AI.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And then you're right on as far as being able to take a lot of those administrative tasks that can be done more efficiently with AI. Your team, of course, can call the insurance company and they can go on the insurance portals, and look at the information. But 80 pages worth of information that pulls
Right.
out from the portal itself, like your staff's never going to get that. But that's what the AI does, and it takes all of that information and it just compiles it and says, "Here's what you need to know. Let's import that in." Gosh, done. And when you have a busy practice and you are seeing anywhere from 30 to 40 patients a day, and sometimes more than that, depending on what the work is to be done, there's a lot of checking of
Yep.
benefits, a lot. And now you're right. You take that and you turn that around and put that back on your staff members to be able to pay more attention to your patients. As a patient, who doesn't want to have that experience walking into your office, to be able to be like, gosh, I had this amazing experience. The staff had time for me. I was able to ask them questions. I felt really taken care of. And I'm sure they do anyways, but now it's just a different experience for your patients as well, too.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
There's one other piece that one of the things that always annoys me when I always watch when I'm in any medical setting. I watch very intently to see, 'cause I always want to improve what I'm doing in my office by saying, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to give this appearance, in my practice. And I think one of the things that disturbs me more than anything is that conversations don't happen as much eye to eye anymore. There's somebody who is in their computer typing away, not necessarily looking at me while I'm talking, not interacting with me, looking for clinical signs. And we learn so much when we actually engage with a human being. And so we should be using our time to engage with human beings, not to sit and type
Great point.
these long clinical notes and to run these benefit checks. It's about that human experience. And I know for myself that that's one of the things that really has been taken away a little bit. You know, it's like that the first bump with moving to the electronic health record, it actually took us down a notch because there used to be those kinds of conversations eye to eye, because then you only had this short clinical note. But then when we moved to the electronic health record, it seemed like everybody is just now so into their computer that they're not into the patient. And so
Exactly.
I love that these products are here to kind of bring it full circle and bring everything back to that interaction with the patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and where are we taking notes, Kristen? Where I would love for it to evolve is that the limitation of the digital record has been our ability to search and find information relevant to an issue that is presenting to us today. So if a patient comes in and says, something's going on with tooth number 30, it's going to take me about 25 minutes to comb back through, if they've been a patient of record for more than 5 years,
Yeah.
to comb back through my entire digital record of them to actually find. That's asinine at this point, that we don't have
Yeah.
tools that we can use or AI that we can deploy to say, if I've ever looked, thought, or touched number 30, would you let me know? And I get a
Yeah.
ledger immediately with, just like Gemini. Gemini is going to give me a couple links of the radiographs I took and the bills and claims I've sent out related to the same tooth, because I really hope that's where we get, because we still treat the digital record like a paper chart.
Yeah.
Like we can just thumb through it and it'd be super easy to find. It's actually, once it gets past like 2 pages, it gets very difficult to resource the information back on a patient. So, if you're looking for a new feature,
Yeah. Hang tight. Those things will come.
coming. Yeah, I think AI is going to open the door for all of that.
It will. It
Yeah.
absolutely will.
Yeah.
And to your point too, is going back because of my age, paper charts, I had a section for perio, I had a section for clinical notes, I had a section for just interaction with other specialists. Like I had a crazy chart, but it was actually really easy to get that information
Find
as I
stuff.
need it.
Yeah.
I want to talk into my computer and say perio for a patient, and I want every note that was written regarding anything done from a periodontal
Yeah.
perspective for
Yeah.
this patient. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe we just saw a little peek behind the curtain. Maybe.
yeah, we're trying to get
We're
her
trying.
to blink, aren't we?
We're really trying.
Just hang tight. There's more to come where
Yeah.
AI is concerned. I mean, think about also, like, when you think about phone systems as well too, right? There's so many things that you can do with phone systems. There's the digital assistant that's available, or the virtual assistant that's available. So there's just so many things that it's doing, that the clinical record is just continuing to be more and more of an advantage in what we'll be able to do with the clinical record. And so mentioning that, tell me everything that happened on Tooth for 30, it's not that far out.
Yeah. Well, and then attach it to the claim. Like all those things kind of build on itself
Exactly.
to,
Yep.
make it.
And it knows to just grab that information, right? It just knows that, well, yeah, you just did all this work on 230, so we know that this needs to go with that claim. Done.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't have to be manually driven anymore. But anyway, those are all very exciting. And I think that's part of why maybe not being on some of the more archaic practice management. So I've been in clinic. Well, so when Jeff was writing scrolls and charging people on an abacus, right?
Etching stone.
Etching stone for his clinical notes,
Yeah.
which were very easy to reference, by the way. I should also note that. When we came online 15, 18 years ago now, even then, some of the more proprietary software companies that had been out for a long time, some of the first digital practice management software options that practices had a really hard time keeping up with the changes that were happening. And now it's actually really hard to even make the argument, to stay with some of the old guard in this space, because the innovation that's happening with the newer players in the marketplace, and you're not really new. I mean,
Right.
in the world of software new is like 2 to 5 years. You're actually a very established player in the marketplace at this point. But the rate at which you can innovate and change is so much faster. And I don't know if you can speak to that, or okay,
Yeah.
here's a question. How, as a customer client success person, how does the feedback that you get from those that are using your platform, how does that change and evolve the company over time? What is the mechanism? Do you take that information and say, top 20 complaints from our customers this month was, I don't like that the cursor is a unicorn. Could you please change it from a shamrock to a unicorn? Something like that. And then does that create the innovation?
It does, absolutely. So ticket creation is a big part of what the customer service team does. And whether it's, they asked a question, you're documenting that, but more importantly is what are the suggestions that are coming through, because that does define what we start to work on next as a company, and areas that, this suggestion and this suggestion, and the more suggestions that we see about certain areas becomes like the area that we look at and say, well, we probably need to do something there and add some additional features there. So suggestion submission is a really big part of how we determine what's next for our product. I think the other part that we look at as well too is what's changing in the industry and what's coming in the industry, because you always have legislation type things that you have to be aware of. Then also just what's the new and innovative things that are happening that we know we need to incorporate into our software. So those are all parts of the way that we make decisions on how we're going to expand the software. I do want to state one thing to you though, because going back to, I worked for a dental software company that was server based, and then I moved over to this web based system. A big drive for me moving over to the web based system is because I knew what that meant for not only the customer, but for the customer service representatives and supporting customers. Being on the web makes it so much easier for us to be able to see immediately what the issue is, so we can solve it so much quicker. But then also the other thing that it does as well too is it just takes a lot of that work and requirements that you've had in the past, such as doing backups and making sure that backups have been taken off site, and then also just releases. I mean, with server-based systems, releases are horrendous, and been there, done that multiple times. That I know that it's a horrible feeling as a provider to know that your system isn't up and running the way that it needed to be because there was a release that happened and all of those things. So being web-based changes the way that releases happen. It changes the way that how quickly we can get releases out as well too, that you're not taking your time, your precious time, where you want to be with family and not worrying about, I've got to upgrade my software, I've got to make sure my backups are working. That's all being taken care of for you. So that was a big drive for me as far as why going to the web. And that's old news, right? But that's such a critical part of being on the web, in difference between being on the web and the server. It's just a different world that we're living in, and it's faster paced as well too, as far as what we can do and what we can make available to the users.
I think that is a perfect note to end on. Couldn't have said it. Hey, you're both frozen. Am I frozen?
Are you sure we're just not like model posed?
Oh, you did. You both just model posed. Wow. That was pretty impressive.
We're just waiting for the most interesting thing for you to say.
Yeah, well, you're going to be waiting for a while then.
Mm.
So, no, I think we're ready to close out. We're at about 8:59. I love where Curve is going,
Yeah.
the leadership. Every time we are exposed to more of the leadership, I become more and more impressed with the company. There is a sincere focus on being great at what you do. And I admire that because that's something I've always tried to do. I know Jennifer and Chad, we just try to do what we do very well. And the fact that there is a vice president of customer success is, which I did not know that was your official role until today. And I'm just impressed with that because it says we not only want to sell a product, we want our users to have the best experience with that product. And the other piece that I took from today's discussion, and it kind of came full circle in understanding that we are healthcare providers. We need to be using our time wisely as healthcare providers. We need to be providing services. We need to be engaging with our patients. And likewise, all of our teammates around us need to be doing that as well. So I think all of the innovative new offerings that you have just been amazing. I can't wait to see what's coming next. And I just thank you. I thank Kerr for being a great educational sponsor for us. We love what you do, and we're thankful that you've come on to chat with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Was it really a pleasure?
Absolutely.
Was it?